Okay, this is the second part of Declare's Toolkit, where we're going to review the planning of the play of the whole hand at Trick 1 beyond Look Before You Leap tools. We covered the Look Before You Leap tools and the Spy tools in the initial introductory material of Declare Toolkit in the initial video. Today we're going to examine the finesse tools and some aspects of those. We're going to examine the drop tool, where you play for the drop of an opponent's honor. And we're going to examine a little bit about percentages. And we're always going to be doing counting, even though it's not highlighted on this slide. And then in a later video, we'll talk a little bit about squeeze tools. I want to cover just one aspect of long suit establishment, a topic we'd covered in the initial video, and that's potential suit splits. This also relates to percentages and percentage plays. Most commonly we'll have a 7-card, 8-card, or longer fit in some suit. When you have a fit where you're missing an odd number of cards in the suit, they tend to split as evenly as possible. When you are missing an odd number of cards in a suit, the most frequent distribution of the unseen cards is to split as evenly as possible. For example, when you have an 8-card fit missing 5 cards, the most frequent distribution of the missing cards are 3-2. Now don't be surprised when they don't split that way. And when you have a 10-card fit, the most frequent split would be 2-1. When you're missing an even number of cards in a suit, the most frequent distribution of the missing cards is not to split evenly. For example, missing 6 cards, the most frequent distribution for the suit is to split 4-2. When you're missing 4 cards in the suit, the most frequent distribution is to split 3-1, and this is true for a higher number of missing cards as well. However, when you're missing only 2 cards in the suit, there's a slight tendency for the suit to split 1-1. That's the exception to that rule. So let's take a look at the infamous 8 ever, 9 never rule. You've probably heard this little rhyme. When you have an 8-card fit missing 5, the rule is to always finesse for the missing queen. When you're missing the honor, you're missing is the queen. When you have a 9 cards in the suit missing only 4, the rule is to play for the drop of the queen. In other words, you cash the ace king and try to drop the queen when you're missing a queen with these 8 and 9 card fits. And this rule is based loosely on the following 2 slides, but we'll discuss exceptions to it. Here's a heart suit where you have an 8-card fit, you're missing 5 hearts. The highlighted colors are the ones where you can win all 5 tricks. We see on the far left the highlighted situations where if you finesse the queen with a 3-2 split, the finesse will win. And in the red highlighted area, you'll see the same 3-2 splits with the hand in front of the dummy having 3 cards without the queen. There you would win if you played for the drop. You notice that there are 6 situations where the queen lies in the hand with 2 other cards, and only 4 situations where the queen is with the doubleton. If the queen's with the doubleton in front of the dummy, you don't even need to finesse because you'll cash the ace and you come back to finesse the queen, and there the queen just falls, so you can't go wrong. And there's 6 situations on the far right where the queen is tripled on all sides and there's nothing you can do. You're going to always lose the queen. So in one case, the 4 cases where the queen's on side, doubleton, you can't go wrong. And in the case where the queen is in the hand with 3 hearts, all sides, you can't go right. Now there's something I want you to notice about this slide. We're just talking about the hands where we're just talking about the hands that are colored with the colored background, where you can successfully make all 5 tricks. either by guessing to drop the queen on all sides or to finesse it. There are 6 cases where you can make it by finessing. There's 4 cases where you can make it by playing for the drop. This turns out to be the same thing as a 3-to-2 ratio. That is, the finesse wins 3 times and the finesse loses 2 times. That's 3-to-2. It's 6-to-4 or 3-to-2. And there's 5 cards out. Isn't that interesting? The queen is in the hand with 3 cards at a ratio of 3 times to being in the hand with 2 cards 2 times. This is a 3-to-2, 60%, 3-to-2. And this is true of any split of the cards. Any card you're looking for is going to be in the longer suit at the ratio of how many cards are in the longer suit versus how many cards are missing. So the long suit here is 3. You're missing 5 cards, it's 3-to-2. If it was a 4-1 split, the queen would be in the hand with the 4 cards at a ratio of 4-to-1. So just sort of keep that together. You don't have to do any kind of fancy math. 3-to-2 is 60% chance that the finesse is better than the playing for the drop, which is 40%. But there's no need to know that. Just know 3 is bigger than 2. And it's not any kind of complicated math. So now we're going to look at the 9 never concept. And on the right we see we have a 9 card fit in hearts missing the queen. First round, of course, we cash the king, see if the queen falls. Then when we lead a second heart, the question becomes, do we take the finesse or do we play for the drop? Now, we said earlier that missing 4 cards, the most likely distribution is 3-1. So you would think the odds here would favor finesse. The reason it doesn't is something called the principle of vacant space. Principle of vacant space goes something like this, which is when you know the full count in one suit, any suit, you can then apply a principle of vacant space. If somebody leads a club at trick 1, they have to have some kind of suit. So you can't say, well, he's got a club, so he's got 12 vacant spaces in his hand, his partner has 13. Because you know he's got some kind of cards, he's got to play something. But once all the cards in a suit are known, for example, you know that West had 5 diamonds and East had 1 diamond. There are in the hand with 5 diamonds 8 vacant spaces. The hand with 1 diamond, there are now known 12 vacant spaces. So any missing card, going back to the previous slide, that you're interested in would be more likely in the hand with 1 at a ratio of 12-to-8. But you can only apply that rule when all the cards in the suit have been played. But here with the heart suit, we can divide the heart suit, the opponent's cards, into subsuits. There's the 3 cards that aren't the queen and the 1 card that's the queen. So when the last of the subsuit, the 3 small cards, are played, and now the only card left out is 3, the vacant space, you can now say West had 2 cards that weren't the queen and East had 1 card that's not the queen, so that's a subsuit. So there are now in the West hand 11 places to hold the queen, and in the East hand there are 12 places he can hold the queen, but only because all the small cards have been played. Until the small card's been played, you can't do this. So the odds are 12-to-11 that East has the queen, and you're going to drop it. So that 12-to-11 comes out to be, there's 47.8% chance the queen is in the West hand and 52.2% chance the queen is in the East hand. But now let's think about the hand on the left, and then we'll come back to the hand on the right. Hand on the left, what's the chances the spade finesse is going to win? You lead a small spade, West plays low, and you insert the queen. What's the chance that's going to win? Knowing nothing else about the hand, it's 50-50. Seldom will we know nothing else about the hand. But let's say that we've played in other suits, and we now know, because we've counted the hand, that East had exactly 2 spades on this hand, and West held 4 spades on this hand. Think back to about the previous slide with the heart suit. We found that the hand with the most cards is likely to hold any one card that you're interested in, and here's the King of Spades, at a ratio of that number of cards that hand holds versus the total number of cards missing in the suit. So if West is known to hold 4 spades and East is known to hold 2 spades, the chance that the spade finesse isn't going to win isn't 50-50, it's 4-2 or 2-1. So it's a 66% chance the finesse is going to win. What if East held 1 spade and West held 5 spades? Then the chance would be 5-1 that the finesse is going to win. So now if we come back over to the 9 never, how this would apply here, on the 9 never rule, what if you know that East started with 7 spades and West held 2 spades? Before we ever touched the heart suit, the odds that West had the Queen of Hearts would be 9-5 that the West has got the Queen of Hearts. Now that would be 69%. Now that we've played 2 rounds of hearts, that actually odds would change a little bit, because now we found out that in addition to the 7 spades East had, he had 1 heart, the subset of heart he had 1, and West had 2 spades and 2 hearts. So then we've got to count on 2 suits. We got to count on the subsuit of hearts, and we got to count on spades. East start off with 7 spades and 1 heart in the heart subsuit, so that leaves him with 5 vacant spaces in his hand. West had 2 hearts and 2 spades, that's 4, that leaves him with 9 vacant spaces. But so West is a 9-5 favorite to hold the Queen of Hearts. So here the percentages have changed, and the odds now favor, despite the 8 ever 9 never little. So here the odds have changed, despite the 8 ever 9 never little rhyme, to the finesse winning 69% of the time against West. And talking about finesses, there's a lot of finesses that are possible. When you can't afford to lose a trick, and when you don't have trumps, there's fewer than when you can't afford to lose a trick and you have trumps. For example, if you have a trump, you have a roughing finesse as a possibility. And there's something called direct finesse, which these pretty much all are, but technically the direct finesse is just leave it small and insert the queen as a direct finesse. There's also something called an indirect finesse, where you might have the ace third in one hand and queen third in the other, and you lead small towards the queen, where you can lose a trick. I mean, you're guaranteed to lose a trick if they want to take it. We're not going to talk about indirect finesses, obviously, because we can't afford to lose a trick. So there's more finesses that we aren't covering here that we'll cover in later parts of this series. But there's the direct finesse, there's the deep finesse, where you finesse for the jack first and then for the queen. The direct finesse is roughly 50% here on the far left. The indirect finesse and the double finesse, where you lead a small and finesse west for both the queen and jack, and you finesse them twice, those aren't real successful. They're about 24% each of both finesses winning. There's a two-way finesse, where you can finesse either opponent, and here counting becomes very key, because counting the other suits and decide which way you want to finesse, because you have the option. And in later, where you can afford to lose a trick, these are great, because you can throw the opponents in and force them to lead the suit in an in play, and you're guaranteed to win if they lead this suit. If East or West leads a spade on the two-way finesse, you're going to win all 3 spade tricks. But if you can't afford to lose a finesse, then that's not as useful. There's the drop. We're going to skip the pseudo finesse for a second. There's the drop on the following right. You really have not much chance to lead the jack and have it win. But if you cash the ace king and the queen happens to fall, you drop the queen, then that would be a successful extra trick. And we'll use drop plays in combination with other plays a lot in these videos. And then there's a pseudo finesse. This finesse really has no great chance of success. You lead the queen and hope West has the king and duck it. It's much better if you can in-play somebody and force them to lead away from the king. However, if you have to win 2 spades in this holding, and if there's no other way to win the spade trick, you have to win to make your contract. The time to do it when dummy has a double to an ace is to lead the queen early. Why lead it early? If West is sitting there with the king without the jack, he might think, or especially without the jack or 10, he might think if he ducks the queen, you'll win the ace on the second round, and his king will now be a stopper / winner. So you might get away with leading the queen against good defenders if you do it very early in the hand. If you wait towards the end of the hand, it's never going to work, because they can count how many tricks you have, and they'll know they have to cover for sure. Well, I just want to talk about formulating a plan of play at trick 1 now that we've covered the basics of what we're talking about other than the squeeze play. The steps in planning is at trick 1, use your look before leap tools. We've already covered those. Use your spy tools. Did you learn anything from the bidding or opening lead that will help you play the hand right, or did you get a count on the hand during the play so that you know how a suit splits, so you know the odds roughly of finessing versus playing for the drop? Or if you have a two-way finesse, do you know which person's more likely to hold the queen or missing queen based on how the other suits split? So then when you're ready to put all that information together and plan your play, one thing we know that is if you can establish a long suit without losing a trick, that's it for all the tricks you need to do. That's the way you need to go. You need to consider the possibility of the finesses, realizing that chances of some finesses winning, especially double finesses and deep finesses, are greatly diminished. But if that's the only chance you got, take it. Know when playing for the drop makes sense. Maybe you can play for the drop in one suit before you take a finesse in another suit. That increases your odds of being successful. Finding the best percentage play in any one suit, sort of the suit combination. What's the best way to play this suit? And then later we'll talk about the possibility of a squeeze. And what you need to do is to pick a line of play that hopefully has the best chance to establish the number of tricks you need to make your contract. This should include any small tweaks to the main theme of the hand that gives you any extra chances to make. And finally, common errors in planning the play of the hands: ignoring the look before you leap errors. It's hard to believe how many people will take a finesse at trick 1 and they don't even need to take the finesse. It's just they've got their tricks if they don't lose that trick. Another error is they create entry problems. They block their own suits. When you're playing a hand as declarer, a lot of times you want to block the enemy suit, like in 3 no trump, so that you cut communications between the hands. A lot of declarers will do this to themselves. Don't block your entry situations. Keep your entries fluid, and they overlook a necessary safe suit play and lose a trick in a suit that they never had to lose if they just played the suit carefully, often with unblocking. Other errors: you ignore the fact that somebody bid or didn't bid. You fail to count the hand or the opponent's high card points. You win a trick in the wrong hand at the wrong time, blocking yourself again. You overlook the only chance you have. There's only one chance to make the hand, and you just simply overlook it, and you don't take the possible winning line. Not spotting the best chance to make, that's the same thing as overlooking the only winning chance to make. Oh, not spotting the best chance to make a contract. You don't overlook the only winning line. You overlook the best chance for a winning line. And you miss any extra chances. A lot of times there's one extra chance on the hand. You can try that first. Then if that doesn't work, you can play your main line. So now there'll be a series of videos where you apply this knowledge to try to, at trick 1, to try to plan how to make the hands. And then in 2 or 3 videos from now, we'll come back and talk about the squeeze plays, and we'll add those to this sequence. So now we're going to, so that's the end of this video, and we'll have 2 or 3 videos where you have to plan the play of the hands at trick 1. using these tools that we've talked about, and then we'll have one more introductory chapter talking about squeeze plays, and then we'll come back and have some hands that mix in. Some will be squeeze plays and some will be plays that don't involve squeeze, so they're not all squeeze plays after that. And then we'll go to part 2.